always been my belief that there's always light at the end of the tunnel. And I think that through my entire life, I have always lived with that in mind, that no matter how bad things seem to be, there's always light at the end of the tunnel somehow, if you're brave enough to keep looking and to keep going and to keep saying, no, there must be something. This is not what God wanted me to do. Come here on earth and suffer? No, like I believe I wasn't created to just go through life and suffer. And I believe you weren't either. So when I'm going through the hardest of times, I always tell myself, God, you didn't really just create me to go through life like this. And I believe that everything is a lesson. And sometimes I feel like God is asking me to go through something painful so that I can become better for somebody else. And so that has been my mindset in the world as I went through life. No wonder when I go to look for speakers, I tend to attract people who have the same beliefs and just confirm that as they come on. And so today I'm very excited about my speaker because that is the work that she has lived all of her life. Just felt like, you know what? I think that life can be so bad. She's been going through life thinking, is there anything better? And finally, she's now doing this work. And I really can't wait to dive in because I think that there is someone in the planet who is praying every day, and this is the answer that is coming through. And you and I, it's our responsibility to share this message with this person. And my hope for today is I will give you enough clarity around what hopelessness can be and the answers that exist. And you and I will have the mission to share this with someone that we believe needs hope in their life. Beth, welcome to the World's Best Kept Secret podcast. I am so excited to be diving in.
Good morning, Prima. It's a delight to be here with you. I loved your opening about one person who needs to find a way forward.
Yeah, there is ours. So before we dive in, I wanted to introduce Beth because I feel like she comes with a lot of wisdom from her own experiences. Beth Chisholm is a sound and energy coach whose journey optimizes resilience and passion. At 56, Beth found Kamiyah Coaching, a holistic wellness and personal development business that was inspired by her own profound healing experience, having suffered so much in her life. After witnessing the traumatic shooting death of her friend, Beth struggled with anxiety for years until discovering the emotional freedom technique called tapping. This technique brought her the relief she desperately needed to get out of anxiety. Beth has now dedicated her life to helping others manage and eliminate anxiety through a brand of techniques such as tapping, energy medicine, turning forks, coaching, and spirituality. Beth's mission on earth is to empower clients with the tools they need to overcome anxiety, to overcome the obstacles life has put in front of them, to overcome pain and live a fulfilling or anxiety-free life because she got it and she believes that it's available for everyone that is looking for it. And so today I'm really excited to dive in because I know that it's going to be something that is empowering. I don't know all the modalities. I don't know tapping. I don't know these things myself. So I am really just anxious and excited to dig in and discover and curious to ask because I'm like, what is blending? What is tapping? What is this medicine thing? And so I am the perfect example of someone who is very ignorant about her work. And so I'm going to use this time to learn as much as I can. And hopefully through that, we will all learn as much as we can and know exactly who needs to hear this message. Beth, what did I leave out about your work that you feel people need to hear before we dive into your story?
No, that was very thorough and very complete. No, I love that because for years I felt there was no way forward, that I had to live with the debilitating physical symptoms that I was experiencing: fibromyalgia, stomach issues, gastrointestinal, digestive, IBS. Because the doctors really didn't have an answer other than drugs, because that's all that's in their toolkit. And I didn't want to go that route. My body doesn't like that. And I'm like, there has to be something else. And I just kept searching and asking the questions until one day somebody sent this my way. And I'm like, okay, I think this is the answer.
I like what you're saying because I'll give an example of my mom. My mom started off with a mental problem and then she got on drugs. Before we knew it, she had high blood pressure from the drugs. And now she went on more drugs. Before we knew it, she picked up diabetes from the drugs. And now she's on more drugs. If I was to tell you that mom was clean, didn't even see hospitals for years, now she takes anywhere between 15 and 30 tablets a day. And each of those drugs has a way of bringing a new condition to her.
Yes.
I totally understand what it means when you feel like all you're getting is a new drug and a new drug and a new drug and a new drug. So how did you discover this work? Take us there. Like, how did you discover this, and what was your initial response to it?
One thing I would want you to know is that the drugs address the symptoms, not what's actually underneath. And if we don't look at what's underneath that, your mom's mental health, anxiety, limiting beliefs, if we don't look at the root of all of that, no drug, nothing is actually going to solve anything. So 12 years ago, after the shooting death of my friend, I limped along and was afraid of everything. The anxiety was always chugging along about here. Then something would happen, something simple. It didn't need to be anything major. I'd be driving in my car and like, where's my purse? I can't find my purse. It's right there on the seat beside me, but it was covered by a shopping bag. And I couldn't see it. And that was enough to send the anxiety up here. And nothing reset it except sleep. Sleep brought it back to here, but it never went away. I did 3 years of talk therapy, and the woman was fabulous. But talk therapy doesn't address what's sitting in our bodies. To truly heal, we need a somatic technique. Your listeners and viewers may have heard of EMDR. I don't know what it stands for, but that's one somatic technique that's a little more commonplace. Not a lot of people have heard of energy medicine or tapping or EFT. I certainly hadn't. I was training as a life coach. It was 7 years after the shooting. And one of the facilitators happened to say she discovered tapping and it's really helped with her anxiety. I'm like, please tell me more. I'm drowning. I downloaded a book and began to try it out myself. And I was coaching someone who was depressed and anxious, off work, couldn't get out of bed most days, didn't want to leave the house. I'm like, try this. It's a little weird. And she's like, why, yes, I do. And within a very short amount of time, she was back to work, out of bed and leaving the house. I'm like, okay. And that was with my untrained, clumsy attempts. So I'm like, okay, there's something good here that I need to investigate. So I went and got trained and certified as a level 2 tapper. And then I discovered tuning forks by design. I was speaking at an EFT conference. I love to speak and share my story. And if you'd have told me 10 years ago I'd be doing this, I'd have told you were nuts. That was my limiting belief. I am not a speaker. I cannot do this. Tapping helped me resolve that. So I was sharing my story and a woman was doing tuning sessions. I'm like, will you do that for me? And sure. So she did one side and then she was working on the other side with her forks. And she's like, what are you noticing? That's my favorite question for clients. What are you noticing in your body? I'm like, oh gosh, my cheeks are on fire. And this is where the stomach points end in Chinese medicine. This is the end of the meridian for your stomach. And she's like, well, my stomach hurts. I'm like, yes, that's what I wanted you to fix. Because when we tune somebody, we often take on what it is temporarily their body is experiencing. And after that, my stomach was better than it had ever been my whole life. I'm like, yes, got to add this to the toolkit. So I added tuning. And all of this is done virtually. I do not have to be with you. I do not have a space to receive clients. All of the work that I do is virtual. So I can work with anybody, anywhere. You're in Uganda, I'm in Canada, and we've still been able to connect. It's amazing.
It is amazing. So take me through that process, What I'm hearing is tuning and tapping, and I'm like, what are all these things? Take me like someone who is on day one, or because that's why I am. Like, I don't understand these things. So if I were
So,
in a place where all hell was breaking loose for me, and for example, my mother, I don't know if she's in that mindset, but she had the first problem she had like 27 years ago was a mental problem.
mhm,
And we did not really think about, I didn't know about trauma at that point. We didn't really dig back. Like, I didn't know. Like, all we knew was medication. And so she started that. And now she's like on 30 tablets. And every tablet is really just bringing a new problem for her. So if I were to
yes.
bring to you my mom and we were to help her using your techniques, so I feel like she's one of those people who is just waiting for the day. She knows she's lived. She's actually 60, what, 67 now. So she's not old.
Mm,
But when you look at her,
no.
really, she looks 80 because of the drugs. So if
The
we
first thing I
were,
would do with your
mm,
mom
mm,
is neuroregulation. And
mm,
what has happened, a couple of things have happened for your mom. The
mm,
trauma she has experienced is stuck in her body somewhere.
mm,
Bessel van der Kolk wrote a fascinating book 30 years ago, and everybody argued with him. No, no, no. The book is called The Body Keeps the Score. And
mm,
what happens to us is a thought becomes an emotion. Oh, that car is racing towards me. I'm afraid. And something happens physically to us. Your stomach clenches, your throat tightens, your shoulders go up to your ears, and it lives there. It stays there until
mm,
we figure out a way to somatically, talking doesn't do it. We have to physically, somatic means physical, physically release it. And the reason why talking often isn't enough is because talking accesses the front part of our brain, the prefrontal cortex. That's the
mm,
part where we make decisions, sort of, and we say, I am not going to eat that bag of cookies today. I'm just going to have one. And your subconscious, your amygdala, laughs at you and says, "Oh no, you're going to eat that whole bag. I know it." And you do, because what is driving our behavior and our actions
mm,
is our subconscious and our amygdala. How do
mm,
we rewire what's happening in our subconscious? Energy work.
mm,
Energy work literally rewires your brain. So they've done a lot of studies on this, and they show that neurologically, we're rewiring the paths in our brain.
mm,
Energetically, we're changing the energy that we're carrying around. So energetically, we're changing something, and physically, it has three separate components. Physically, we're changing it as well.
mm.
Would you like to try something, Prima?
I am always open. Always open.
Okay, what I'm going to teach you is in the back of your hand. One of my favorite things about these modalities is
Mhm,
me.
mhm,
They don't always need me to help them heal. If people are working through big T traumas, like I would just guess your mom probably lived through Idi Amin in Uganda many years ago, and trauma and upheaval in your country, and is probably seeing things that are stuck in her subconscious and in her body.
mm,
So the techniques, so you don't want to process big T traumas by yourself.
mm,
That can just re-traumatize you. But if you've got something really little, you can do it on your own. I'm so mad at my husband. Yep, feels like a 6. I'm really mad at my husband. And you can take that mad out. It's amazing. So I'm going to teach you a technique called the 9 gamut. On
mm,
the back of your hand, both hands, it doesn't matter which one, is between your ring finger knuckle and your baby finger is this little ditch. Feels kind of like
mm,
a V. Yeah. And what we're going to do is we're either going to hold it,
mm,
tap it, or rub it. It doesn't matter which one, Prima, on anywhere. So put that hand on your heart, and I want you to be, I like to rub it. Okay.
mm,
And the first thing we're going to do is I want you to do a body scan, because this is a somatic or body technique. As
mm,
you're rubbing your gamut point, which is a direct connection to your amygdala, your fear response system, I just want you to check out in with your body. Go from your head to your toes and just notice. Maybe your throat is tight, and give it a number, 0 to 10. We give numbers so we can see progress. And when you're done, let me know.
What am I scanning for?
Something that your body's trying to tell you. So maybe your shoulders are up a little bit high. Maybe your throat is tight. Maybe your stomach is clenched. Your gut is off. Maybe you got a feeling in your head. And measure it 0 to 10. 0, it's gone. 10, it's, oh, this is really bad. I've had it for days or months or years.
I don't know. I could just doze off. I'm so peaceful. It's not even funny.
That's beautiful. That
I was
doesn't happen
beginning to
very
sleep off.
often. That does not happen very often. Keep rubbing your gamut point and I'll lead you through the technique for your listeners.
Okay.
Yep. Keeping your head perfectly still. I want you to only use your eyes and open them and look down to the right. Nope, keep your head still.
What am I doing with the eyes?
With your eyes, look down to the right.
Hmm.
Okay, come back to center. I want you to look down to the left. Come back to center. I want you to roll your eyes clockwise. Roll your eyes counterclockwise. Can you hum for me a couple bars of a song? Any song, doesn't matter. Are you humming? I can't hear it. Oh, there it goes. Okay. Now I want you to count backwards from 10 to 0 by twos. Out loud. Sorry, that's out loud.
You want me to count loud?
I want you to count backwards from 10 to 0 by twos out loud.
Out loud. Am I still humming?
Nope, stop humming.
Okay. 10, 8, 6, 4, 2, 0.
Excellent. I'm going to ask you some math questions. What's 3 times 1? Keep
Pardon?
rubbing. What's 3 times 1?
3,
What's 2 times 2?
4,
What's 5 times 2?
10.
Now hum again for me and tell me when you're done. Okay, check in with your body and just see what you notice.
There has to be a different exercise that opens me up for the experience because I feel like sleeping again. So I am not very conscious when it comes to that. So I guess I need something else which has to open me up for the experience.
Oh, for sure, we can do something else. We can try regular tapping. Do you have a little issue that you've been feeling that you may want to resolve, like you're mad at your husband, or technology is making you crazy, or something? Do you have a little issue, Prima?
I don't have a problem with tech or anything, but yes, my husband has a way of triggering me sometimes. And that would be nice to know how to deal with it.
Okay,
Unintentionally, in a loving manner, he has
oh,
a way of really getting me triggered. And usually I wouldn't in real life. I wouldn't be triggered. But since I got married, yes, I think that I get triggered sometimes.
when you think about your husband triggering you, what's the emotion that comes up?
The emotion is resentment. I don't want the feeling. I don't want to experience that over and over.
Now we're going to measure 0 to 10. How big is
Mm.
that resentment that you feel? 0, it's gone. 10, it's, oh, it's big.
In that moment, I could give you a 10 because it's like I don't want this. Like this, it has to go, or there has to be a process for this. I don't want to have it.
When you think about the resentment that you feel towards the trigger your husband causes, where
Mm,
do you feel it in your body? First place that comes to mind. And that's the other thing. When I ask questions, I
mm,
want the first answer that pops in your brain because that's your a subconscious talking. If we're thinking about it, that's the prefrontal cortex, and we already know it's not
mm.
in charge. So,
Okay.
your body, where are you feeling it?
It just comes in form of like tears. It's like the tears want to come out. I don't know where that is, but it's like tears want to come out usually, but they
Yeah.
are not.
So in
But there is that feeling of I want to cry.
so in your eyes, perhaps?
Chest, I would say chest because the chest is heavy and the
Chest.
result is
Okay.
like it's like yeah, the tears want to come out. But I think it's a
So
heavy.
it's heavy in your chest.
Yeah.
And as you tune into the heaviness in your chest, do you see a
Mm.
color there, Prima? First thing
Colors.
that comes to mind. A color. What's the color you see there?
No
Anything?
color. Mm-mm.
No color?
Mm.
Okay, we're going to start tapping. And I'm going to tell you the points first. So on the side of the hand like this, either hand, it doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to do 3 statements here. And then inner eye, right where your eyebrows end, is the next
Mm.
point. And then side of the eye, right here. Cheekbones, right here. You can do it with 1 or 2 hands, it doesn't matter.
Mm.
Under the nose, on your chin, collarbone, and under the armpits. You can do right about where your bra would sit. You can do both sides, you can do one side, doesn't matter. Okay.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
And then finally the top of your head.
Okay.
So you're going to repeat after me, and
Mm-hmm.
I feed you back what you told me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So
Mm-hmm.
starting on the side of your hand, even though, no, underneath like this, Prima. Yep, underneath. Yeah, you got it. Even though, you're going to repeat.
Even though
I feel resentment
I feel resentment
when my husband triggers me.
when my husband triggers me,
It makes me want to cry.
it makes me want to cry.
And it feels like a 10.
Pardon?
It feels like a 10
It feels like a 10
sitting in my chest.
sitting in my chest,
But I'm open to the possibility
but I'm open to the possibility.
I don't have to hang on to this,
I don't have to hang on to this,
that I can shift and transform it.
that I can shift and transform it.
And I'm looking at this with curiosity and kindness for me.
And I'm looking at this with curiosity and kindness for me,
2 more times on this. Even though
even though
I feel resentful
I feel resentful
when he triggers me,
when he triggers me,
and it feels like a 10.
and it feels like a 10.
It makes me want to cry,
It makes me want to cry.
sitting as heaviness in my chest.
There is heaviness in my chest,
But I'm open to the
but
possibility
I'm open to the possibility.
I don't have to hang on to this reaction,
I don't have to hang on to this reaction.
that it could shift and transform.
They could shift and transform.
And I choose to love and honor myself.
And I choose to love and honor myself,
Once more, even though
even though
I feel resentment.
I feel resentment.
When my husband triggers me, it's a 10.
When my husband triggers me, it's a 10.
It's a heaviness in my chest.
It's the heaviness in my chest.
But what if it didn't have to stay this way?
But what if it didn't have to stay this way?
I'm open to that possibility.
I'm open to that possibility.
And I choose to love and accept myself anyway.
And I choose to love and accept myself anyway.
Inner eyebrow, Prima. Eve, this resentment,
If it's resentment,
side of the eye, feels like a 10.
feels like I am.
on the cheekbones, sitting in my chest.
sitting in my chest.
This resentment
This
under
one
the nose, in your on your chin. Feels like a 10.
feels like a 10.
Collarbone. My husband triggers me
Ah, this one triggers me.
under the arms, and it's sitting in my chest.
And it's sitting in my chest.
Top of the head, this heaviness in my
There's
chest.
heaviness in my chest.
Inner eyebrow. Feels like a 10.
Feels like a 10.
My husband triggers me,
Ah, this one triggers me.
and it feels like a 10.
It feels like a 10.
It's just sitting in my chest.
It's just sitting in my chest.
This heaviness in my chest.
There's heaviness in my chest.
What are you noticing, Prima? Check in with the number. Does your resentment still feel like a 10?
I don't feel it.
You don't feel it at all?
Mm-mm.
Oh, okay. The next thing we would ask, and we
Mm.
won't do this on video because this becomes very personal and
Mm.
deep, is if, and just answer the question if you can find one. Is
Mm.
there a memory where you might have first felt this resentment? First memory that comes to mind?
Maybe.
Okay. If we were in a private session, we would look at that memory and
Mm.
heal whatever had happened there. Because when something happens to us, there's
Mm.
an orphan, an
Mm.
energetic orphan that is hanging around us,
Mm.
particularly if it's a trauma, or it could just be you presented something at school, you were 6 years old, and the teacher told you it was unacceptable and wrong. Sit down.
Mm.
So now this event has no resolution, and a belief would have been formed as a result of that event.
Mm.
And it's here, and little you is repeating that belief. Like maybe it's, I'm not good enough, or I'm stupid,
Mm.
or I can't present, whatever it is.
Mm.
This is the belief that was formed by 6-year-old Prima,
Mm.
and we need to resolve that. And then we resolve it and integrate it in, and it shifts our present reality. It's fascinating stuff. But that when we dig into memories and stuff,
Mm.
it's very deep and personal and emotional. So we won't
So
go
so
there unless you want to later.
what did we do there? I probably wouldn't mind if we had planned it. I don't mind, like honestly, I don't mind. It would probably be a good experience because I am like the most unaware of this stuff. So it would help somebody else who feels like me going like, what happens in there? What do they do in there? It probably would help someone if we had planned for a longer session. But I'm just wondering, what is that we did there? What is the process we did there?
So what we did was we changed a feeling that you have and where it was
Mm,
sitting in your body. We
mm,
released it. So
mm,
the way to test this is now next time when you're with your husband and
mm,
he says something, check and see.
mm,
I'm not triggered or I am triggered,
mm,
right? If you are still triggered, then there's more work to do with that memory. There's work to do with the memory. If
mm,
you're not triggered, it can be like, oh, wow, look at that. He said something and I'm not triggered. I don't feel resentful. I'm
mm,
just not triggered. There's nothing happening. So that's how we test our work. Sometimes
mm,
we can test our work instantly,
mm,
um, but other times, like with anxiety, my anxiety's gone. Anxiety is never the thing.
mm,
Anxiety is like your early warning system. It's the
mm,
beginning where it says, I'm feeling anxious. So we always start tapping on the anxiety. We measure it, find it in the body if there's a
mm,
color.
mm,
But almost always there's something underneath that. Oh, I'm actually afraid. I got a big presentation today. I'm afraid of presenting because it never goes well. Limiting belief that we
mm,
can shift.
mm,
So energy medicine works really well for limiting beliefs.
mm,
Like I'm a terrible presenter, or no one in my family is successful. No one in my family goes to college. Whatever it is, we can shift limiting beliefs. It works really well on traumas. It works really well on day-to-day things.
mm,
So I'll be driving down the road, somebody cuts me off, and it really scares me. I'll start tapping. That really scared
mm,
me. Oh my gosh, that really scared me. And what it does is it takes the charge out of what happened and brings me back into neural regulation. My nervous system, when we're activated, goes
Mm,
bonkers. Our amygdala, part in the brain that's responsible for this reaction, has
mm,
never changed or evolved. It's prehistoric. And
mm,
for our ancestors, they would see a saber-toothed tiger. The amygdala now says, run, 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 danger, danger, danger. And
mm,
it does not communicate. Your amygdala does not communicate with your prefrontal cortex. They don't talk to each other. The trigger happens and you run. If they could communicate with each other,
mm,
you'd see the saber-toothed tiger, the trigger would happen, and your prefrontal logical mind would say, oh, he's not that big. We could kill him. It'll be dinner. We could take him and I'll be a hero. No, you'd just be dead because it's a saber-toothed tiger.
mm,
It doesn't communicate. So what happens is the trigger happens and you react and you run.
mm,
That's the stress response. For our
mm,
ancestors, the stress response worked itself out. Their feet, bare feet were on the ground, and the movement, the running, the physicality of it completed the stress episode. So they had what we don't. And they didn't have constant triggers. In our modern world, the triggers are nonstop. Somebody cuts you off in traffic. Somebody shouts at the clerk in the grocery store. Your kid freaks out at home. These are non-stop, and they just build up and build up until mom explodes. The kid comes home and she's already been cut off in traffic, freaked out at the grocery store. The doctor gave her bad news. The kid shows up and I'm done. I'm freaking out. Whereas if she had tapping and energy medicine,
mm,
she could work those individual things out by herself. Oh,
mm,
the driver cut me off and it really scared me. And it feels like a 5. And it's sitting in my stomach because my stomach clenched. But right
mm,
here, right now, I'm safe. And then you process and work out the stress response and
mm.
release it. That's
So,
the simple things.
so the question I have for you is this tapping. I'm sure it would have worked if I would have been angry, if I would have been triggered in that moment. I'm sure it would have calmed
Mhm.
me down. The question I
Yep.
have for you is it a cooling mechanism? Is it a regulation mechanism? Or is it a mechanism to actually uproot whatever?
Both. It's both.
Mm,
So in the moment, so if your husband triggers you, and it's that moment, you can start tapping if you want, or you can just rub your gamut point. Oh, it's so mad at him. And this is one of my favorite spots I teach to people for their own
mm,
neural regulations. Say you're in a meeting on
mm,
Zoom, and the person there is not very kind and is very difficult in your office. You can have your hand, you grab your gamut, hand is down on your lap, sending calming signals to your amygdala, and nobody needs to know. Nobody needs to know what you're
mm,
doing. Stealth tapping. You can also squeeze the sides of your fingers.
mm,
There are points in here. So you can be down below your camera range and nobody needs to know what you're doing, even if you're in an office. If your hands are underneath the desk, you can be doing this. And because this is obvious, right? You're doing something. What are you doing? It can be a little odd. But you can be squeezing the sides of your fingers down in your lap, and nobody needs to know that you're neuroregulating yourself. You're bringing
mm.
yourself back into calm.
Hmm. I think I
But
have
for
what you
big,
I think the way that I normally do it is I will write, which might be a way of doing that. I will just
yeah,
process, I will just write down whatever I'm feeling.
yeah,
And but I think
yeah.
it's probably me pressing on this and kind of telling
Mm-hmm.
my mind that, and when I've processed it, written it down, taken a walk, then
Yeah,
it's
walk.
fine. But the process
Yes.
that I am very curious about is the process of tracing and going, this is the root, and we're going to remove it. We're going to heal this part. I'm very keen with that
Yes.
part. But I guess that's like the after. So if this doesn't work, if you get into the same mode state again, then there is something to uproot that.
I always go to the root, to the memory of what
Mm,
was. So
mm,
you have to tap it down peripherally. You start
mm,
with, I'm just really angry or whatever. You bring them
mm,
back into some semblance of regulation. It doesn't have to go to 0, but like you're down to a 2 or a 3. And then
mm,
you're like, I ask if there's a memory where this might have began. First thing that comes to mind. And always, like very seldom, are there no memories that come up, almost always. The
Mm.
beliefs that we have in life are generally set down in us between 0 and 7. That's when we're in a brain state where we receive everything. We
Mm.
don't have any filters to be able to say, if your mom yells at you and tells you you're stupid, you're going to accept that as truth because you
Mm.
don't have the cognitive thinking to be able to say, I'm not stupid. I just did that puzzle. I'm not stupid. I just climbed the monkey bars. You do not have that thinking ability. So whatever comes
Mm.
in between 0 and 7, you accept as fact. And it
Mm.
becomes a filter, can be a trauma filter, can just be a filter that we run our life on. Like the teacher who said to you, sit down, that was unacceptable. And you come to the belief of, I'm not very good at this. I can't do
Mm.
public speaking. I can't do a research project, whatever it is.
Mm.
Most of the filters are set down 0 to 7. Now, for me, after the shooting,
Mm.
that was a big trauma filter that was put down. And it can be something simple as you're in a blue car in a car accident. Now you can't
Mm.
get into blue cars because your filter is blue cars are not safe. So then we go
Mm.
back to the memory of the accident and we heal it. And now
Mm.
you can get into blue cars. It's a simplified description of it, but that's pretty much how that it works. But yes,
Mm.
so true lasting change does involve the moment and
Mm.
then the history of where that event happened and where your belief is sitting. So you need
Mm.
both.
So it's a moment and then trace back to the event
Yep. Yeah.
and then decide what we want that moment to mean going forward.
What it meant before.
Mm.
So in the example of the kid and the teacher, it meant that I came to believe. And when you ask your younger self what they came to believe, there's almost always an answer. You tune
Mm.
into your younger self and say, what did you come to believe about yourself as a result of what she said? There's almost
Mm.
always an answer. And then we
Mm.
resource that person, your younger you, to
Mm.
say, oh, that's not true. What do you need to show you that's not true? Who needs to come in and help you with this? And
Mm.
resourcing can be a spiritual, it can be inviting angels, God, whatever. It can be bringing in a trusted mentor. Perhaps if your mom was abusive and you need your grandma to come in, it can be bringing in a trusted person. And we resource the younger you. We
Mm.
ask her if she could stop repeating that belief. Usually it's a yes, almost always. And
Mm.
then we tap in. We don't do positives until we've neutralized all of the stuff behind it. Because if you go right to positives, no, I'm not stupid. I'm not stupid. Your
Mm.
subconscious will say, oh, yes, you are. And you won't believe it until we've neutralized that echo back there.
Mm. So good.
It's
This is
fascinating
the
work.
first experience I have of like the
Wow.
real this I don't know, everyone has been coming and saying I do somatic and I'm like, yeah, what does that mean?
What
And
does it really mean? Yeah.
yeah, like I've been interviewing people who wouldn't like really like clearly show. I love that you quickly took me there and planned because that came out really good for someone who was like, what is tapping, and how does it work? But I've never done this work. That's exactly
Mhm.
me. Like I've never done this work. Um,
Some of the cool things about tapping is it's empowering. You can do
mm,
it yourself.
mm,
It's fast.
mm,
So I did talk therapy for 3 years and had a great place to cry and got lots of labels, but I didn't get any true healing. Once I
mm.
started to tap, things began to shift and change quite quickly, actually. Yeah.
Mm.
So,
But I can imagine it's very empowering, especially if one is very reactive. I'm not very reactive. I'm glad you got something, but I'm not very reactive in life. So I can't be hard to work with because I'm more responsive. So I think that my
mhm.
problem is probably not the nervous regulation. I think that my problem may be a trigger from a traumatic moment that I don't have the knowledge of. But as in
And
today,
that's
I think that the nervous system is okay. Even that trigger, I can walk myself through it. But there's probably going to be a minute or five that can be changed. That can be changed, and it can change for like a future occurrence. It can have a better response than I'm getting today, for sure. um
Absolutely. And even if you don't have the memory of, like it might
mm,
be precognition, but it's
mm,
quite surprising to me that even precognition stuff pops up. Like
mm,
we do conception and birth work as well.
mm,
We can heal stuff that happened during that time.
mm,
And that's fascinating work to do. There's always something that we can find to release and heal. And it shows up in how you show up in life. It
mm,
shows up in how you appear.
mm. But I bet you I probably would start to pick up more if I had kids and had that extreme. Like, I think it's just how much responsibility do you have? If I
Mhm.
had kids, like many young kids, I'll probably not be as calm. So I
Possible.
think it really also depends on how much strained or stressed, are you in that moment. I
Yep,
love the
it does.
experience, really. Tell me more about how you help people, your containers. What do you have in the back to support people with this work?
What do you mean by containers?
Do you do one-on-one? Do you do group? Do you do courses? How do you support people with this work?
I do all three. I do one-on-one sessions, and one-on-one session is where you go
Mm,
really deep. It's
mm,
personalized, it's individualized to you. It's
mm,
all about you and your experience. I do group things. I'm running group tunings where people can come and join and tune in to
mm,
the collective energy. And I've done courses. Weight loss was one of the more popular ones. That's a really big thing for people.
mm,
And when we tap together, it's like listening to a song alone or
mm.
listening to a song at a concert. The energy is magnified and it's greater and it's truly transformative when you tap in a group with other people.
I can imagine. I think a group. I was actually about to tell you that I think this work can be more interesting in done in a group setting. It's what I thought in my mind as we did this, because I've never done anything like this.
Mhm. Yes, it is fascinating. And the cool thing about group work is if I'm leading somebody through something and you're watching and tapping along,
Mm,
oh, I feel I feel that too, whatever it is. And you
mm,
can still get benefits even though the person I'm tapping with feels something different.
I think also, if like me, I am not aware of what I'm looking for. So I think if I was to join a group where people already know how to see, visualize, pronounce what they're seeing, I would say, "Oh, I feel that. Oh, I saw that." But
Mhm.
like when you don't know what you're looking for, everything just like I
Right.
didn't know what I was looking for. So it's possible that there were those little clues that I missed because I didn't know, like, okay, what am I looking
It's
for?
it's brand new to you. You've never
Mm,
experienced it before. Yes.
mm,
And the more I tap with somebody, the deeper that we go. The
mm,
the further back the memories are, the bigger the memory is. So, and
mm,
that's about building trust with your practitioner that you're working with and
mm,
knowledge, right? And that takes a
mm,
little bit of time.
mm. Tell me, who specifically is most beneficial for this work? Who should I always want the listener to share this with one human being that would be very beneficial from the work. Who would you say is the perfect recipient of this message?
Someone who's drowning. Someone
Mm,
who is drowning in their fears and anxiety and has had enough. Nothing has worked. They've
mm,
tried to talk their way out of it.
mm,
Prefrontal doesn't
mm,
work. They've maybe tried drugs and it might have helped a little bit, but it caused other problems and they've just given up. Like there is no way forward. I'm sure of it. That person who
mm,
thinks that nothing's going to help them, support them, free them is the
mm,
person I hope will reach out. I hope we'll have the courage one more time to
mm,
try one more thing and reach out for their complimentary session and just have a chat.
mm, mm. If you're thinking of someone, a loved one, a relative, someone who's given up and agreed, you know what, life happened to me, there's nothing I can do about it. This is my fate. And
Yes.
they're probably not getting out of their bed right now. And you know, it's not that age when you're supposed to just be, crank out in your bed. Someone who's like, you know what, I give in. I give in on life. There is one more hope, and that's Beth.
Yes.
Please share this with them. I hope that they can still watch an episode. If they
I
can't,
would love.
maybe visit them and
Mhm.
say, let's watch this together out of love.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
you never know that you could be the reason someone lived for 10 or 15 more years because they chose to work on these things. They chose to tap
And
into
lived
the tool.
and lived a really good quality life as opposed
Mm,
to doing the bare minimum, your 9 to 5 job or whatever, and then
mm,
going home and watching TV and eating the bag of cookies and the bag of chips and tuning
mm,
out because you just can't do it. Yeah,
mm.
living a really good quality life where you're engaged with your people around you and your community, where you're not afraid to go out and try new stuff, where
Mm.
you have a great quality of life.
I love it. I think though the person who most needs this is probably the person who can't find a minute in their day to watch a video and take care of themselves. Like that's what I find. And so there's probably going to be more love, more willingness to kind of really support this person. But I know the people who need these are probably going to be too busy to find an hour in their day to listen to this because they're like, I'm tapped out. Nothing works.
Mhm.
I better just push myself through it all. So yeah.
Yep.
Appreciate you for
And
hanging out with us today. Please do share this with one person it can help. And as always, please be involved. We're building the biggest and grandest community, the most impactful community on the planet. And I would love for you to be a part of it. This is how you can participate. You can rate, you can review, you can subscribe, you can follow. It really depends on where you're at. But most importantly, the biggest thing you can do for me on this channel is listen to a message and share it with someone that you know it can change their life. That's the biggest you can do for me. Because all of these
amen.
coaches that come on are amazing, amazing. And I would love for them to use what do they call it? The leverage of a human bank. There's no amount of marketing that I can do that supersedes our ability to share the message. I believe that truly you sharing this message is the biggest marketing asset I can have. It's the biggest tool I can use to move this message in the world. And so it is my only ask. If you did anything, nothing else, just share this message with one person that could use hope. I appreciate you. Thank you for staying with us today. Beth, I would love to give you a chance to give your last words of wisdom before we go.
There is a way forward. And
Mm,
together, because it's about community. It's
mm,
about, like you said, sharing this message with somebody who needs it, community.
mm.
There is a way forward, and together we can find it.
Thank you so much for your time today on the podcast. Thank you for your wisdom.
Thanks for having me, Prima.
And to you who is listening, really thank you for staying with us. Thank you for sharing the message. And thank you for being a powerful part of the team that is building this community. I appreciate you. I celebrate you. And I'll talk to you very soon. That is it, my friend. To listen to more exclusive interviews like this one, simply go to the World's Best Kept Secret podcast.com and select interviews based on preferred topic.